So our topic today is documenting research projects. And the initial idea was to tell you how to structure your ideas and make yourself understood. The main goal behind this was that in order to speak coherently and write coherently, you need a plan, and you need to see the major points, the building stones, and to get back to them in order to be coherent. So it helps in any activity to remember the structure. However, as I shared today in our sync meeting, weekly sync, I analyzed my experience in our laboratory over the recent 9 months. And what I see that our guys are quite good at structuring their thoughts. Well, at least it was the stage when I joined the project, for example, to edit the ridmis or anything, the papers. So yes, English skills could be improved, but I always said, guys, please don't worry. We're here to help you to polish your English skills. Please make sure to be clear so that people who collaborate with you have enough material to, well, improve the text, right? But it needs to be clear. So one of the main points was clarity. Structuring, not so often. And the other point which I memorized today, well, it was about, I could call it product analysis. It was about clarifying who might need this product, because research is also a product. It can be considered as product. And we set certain research questions and goals in the beginning of the research, and we move in different directions, and it's really good to be open, yes? Not to think like, this is the way how I get to this goal, but you research and you find better ways, or you narrow down your scope. So in the beginning, you see it like this, in a month like this, then like this. And then when you're ready to present your product, you may lack proper terms, or maybe you may need to...
Sorry. Currently we see the first slide. Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just because I haven't started to say.
Okay, yeah, thank you, sorry.
Yeah, my presentation plan changed a little bit, so it's kind of my foreword. So, the product analysis part. When you have done a lot of work, invested a lot of your time, and you know this area quite well, and you know all the pros and cons of your decision, it's very important that you find the proper words, how to name it, and to understand who might be interested in it. And now let me move to my first slide. This was my initial plan. I'll just name the main points and comment what I'm going to speak more in detail and what I'm going to keep for now. So the first point, what is clear and well-structured writing? I'll give some attention to this. Understand your audience. This is a very important thing. Even if the product placement is absolutely clear and obvious, for the purposes of writing, you still need to understand who your reader or your user is. Then don't be afraid to make mistakes. Well, I can speak about this for ages. I will definitely speak more about it. Then the 5 more points, list main ideas, and the rest, they are about expanding your ideas and structuring your ideas. These are techniques which help you to kind of start when you don't know what to write about, or you kind of have an idea, but you don't know how to expand it, or you have like 10 pages of ideas, but it's very difficult to navigate that. So all the basic academic writing things you can also read on the internet. And I gave you just a summary, a gist, like bullet points. And I hope that in the end of this presentation, I'll be able to give some examples which I think are good. So in some projects where I participated, I can show some, I don't know, passages or some structures like, this is a good idea to do it like this, because, and then we refer to this theory. I will share this presentation with you after the meeting, so you'll be able to read it at leisure and use it if you like when you do your writing. I will go like this. So 3 points, then kind of very quickly here, no details. Then I had, I think, a very good idea to explain what happens in linguistic review and empower you to ask questions if you don't like what the other person changed in your text. So to ask questions and to understand why this person changed this, because sometimes it seems unfair. Then if we have the time, I could share also some general tips on language learning, what helps, what doesn't, maybe answer questions about it. And then in the end, we have also time for questions and answers, as it was promised. So far, I received 4 questions. I answered in writing to 2 of the questions, and the remaining 2 seem to be mostly relevant to this talk, and I will try to cover them in the end. So what is clear and well-structured writing? You can see this image. It is stolen from the multiple refactoring articles I read recently when researching refactoring. And I really see that writing articles and different tech documentation involves text refactoring as well, making its structure clear and lucid. So you can see some parallel to improving the style of your coding and also improving the style of your writing. I tried to define what I understand as clear and well-structured writing. It is data is verified. Yes, we tech writers need to verify our data. It's implemented because sometimes the authors give some information, but somehow for them, it's not important to also think of this, this, and this. So I, from my perspective, also see that several points need to be covered as well. So when you delve into some subject deeper, when you interact more with the product, or the more you clarify and interview the author, the more points appear to the surface, and you can see much more than in the beginning. and you start grouping them and seeing tendencies, analyzing this. So the data is verified, supplemented, systemized, and presented in a manner that breeds trust and imposes no extra difficulty in understanding and navigating. The last part, presented in blah, 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 is about technical writing, editing, about linguistic skills, which are, of course, really important because, well, we technical writers, we study style guides, we pay like extra attention to terms, to consistency, and most of us have spent most of our lives improving our language skills and knowing like they're not enough, but still continuing just because it's fun now. Another main point here that the manner of your presentation of your findings, of your product, doesn't need to impose any extra difficulty for users. For example, when you post not enough information, or when you do not bother to really introduce the subject and start right from the most important things without any introduction, without any listen of your key points, just, I don't know, with the main points, and the rest, the clever person will understand. I believe that extra brevity can also be an impediment, as well as too long texts which are poorly organized. This is also an impediment. And in this presentation, in this textual part, you will find tips how to deal with it. So, understand your audience. The first and major step before you are starting to write. It involves thinking what kind of user, reader this could be. Is this my peer? Like, does this person have similar technical skills to myself? Or is this person very strong developer, but from a totally different area? So he might excel in something else, but in my area needs some more introductory material to follow the idea. Is this user below my level? Am I writing, for example, for students? Am I a tutor for them? Or am I writing for specialists who are really above me, which is a kind of surprise because normally we share ideas when we know a little bit more than our audience. And we really need to understand what this more involves. One part of difficulty of reading highly specialized texts is that you do not know the subject area. So, for example, for me, like a year ago, transformers, talkings, blah, blah. It was a huge impediment for me. And I wasn't the target audience of your paper. So it's okay to discourage people who do not know basic things in your subject area. Well, someday you may write a blog post and thinking, well, I'm writing this for my grandma. And then you will say, talking is a kind of phrase and sub-talking is a word and blah, blah, blah. So you'll try to think how to explain this to people who know nothing about your area in that very simple things. So these impediments can be discarded. So you may not think about users who are not specialists in your field if it's really your intent to write only for specialists. But another important thing is that when you write readmes, it often happens that you may kind of forget that this other developer or researcher actually doesn't know anything about your project, its goals, its tasks, and it says nothing about this person's intellectual level. Of course, really persistent people, you know, there are hackers, so you can hack someone's system or you can read someone's code, spend like several days and weeks and find all the questions. Yes, if the repository is small, you can find all the answers. The bigger the project, the bigger the product, the more time you spend looking for those answers, like what formats does the system output? Can I see an example? Do I need to compile it and run it? And how much time it takes? And where exactly do I use it? Like abstract syntax trees, data sets. Okay, I kind of got this, but I'm not really sure that I invest all my time to learn this system, and I will not be disappointed because it is about something else. Also about the trees, also about this, but it doesn't solve my really specific needs. And mostly what I do when researching your projects, your to improve your readmes and papers, is to understand the very specifics of your product to deliver them to your users, you know, like on a plate, like don't waste your time, it's here. And what I also do, I list such main ideas, sometimes for my own use. I don't normally even include that into all the end product, like the documents, but I list, well, this tool uses this, it's about this, it's connected with this, so that I know that I mentioned these important things, speaking about papers, right? In all the major sections. So the main points about the products should be in the introduction, in the related work, where we refer to other works in this area, and this selection is never haphazard. You don't speak about, I don't know, all transformers, whatever there have been. You don't list everything. You specify the narrow field of your research, and you kind of draw connections. I have researched this thing, this thing, this thing, and in this these dimensions, or I don't know, cuts, you also see at related work. You do not list all that is related, for example, to transformers, or I don't know, to mining, some kind of graphs or trees, but to the very specifics. And it really helps. In one of the papers, it was decision taken before me. It was really good to see that related work was organized in 3 subsections, each dealing to one important part of this tool. And in implementation, we also made 3 parts and several extra in the same sequence. And, you know, like this parallel structure. So we kind of prepare readers. We reviewed how, for example, these graphs have been used, then how, I don't know, how this problem has been solved with different kind of tools. And third, another important part of this product, and it seems to help to navigate and to predict what you get. And I think I have already stepped a bit forward from understanding your audience to actually structuring your thoughts, but I want to conclude this slide with the summary. So try to see from the point of view of another competent, clever enough person who needs to use your tool or research findings. It really helps. Now about making mistakes. So let's imagine there's nothing written whatsoever. You need to make your first notes. And you even do something and then you think, my English sucks, or it sounds silly, or I don't know, any of those catastrophic expectations which kind of kill any desire to continue. And I always repeat that your linguistic errors are just nothing. Really, you can write very simple basic English, for example, B1 level. It's fine, you still can make yourself understood. An inspiring example, I think, you know, famous scientists, Russia-born or USSR-born, who live now in the US, and they speak English with very heavy accents. Their vocabulary is really limited, but still everyone understands them and everyone listens to them. They give huge talks and people are happy to listen to them because they have the content. And I think your attitude could be that I need to know English enough to make myself understood. Yes, when you don't remember a word, it's really unpleasant. It can maybe not break your presentation, but really can stop you and you can hesitate about it. But if you expect that something like this could happen, I expect that something could happen to me as well. So I can forget a word or an idea. I could forget everything. But you can kind of prepare yourself for this case. For example, you need to give an oral presentation and, well, what do I do if I forget a word? I can mimic it. I can ask the audience for help, just anything. And it's really not important that you do not know all the words. And the same in writing. If you write in really simple basic structures, it's okay, especially for ridmis. For scientific papers, you've got your colleagues who will help to make the language more scientific-like. But still, we need the clearly stated data to be able to kind of process it. You know, to improve something, you need to understand it. And if the sentence is cluttered and you don't see any syntactic connections and you don't really understand what it is about, it's really difficult to improve this. So I kind of encourage you, especially when you start writing in very simple words, or I can even say such thing that you could write in Russian and then use Google Translate and post-edit it, because you speak English enough. I know most of you speak English enough to be able to see where Google Translate fails. So it will do 80% of your work. and you will eradicate all the stupid things machine translation still does. And it will not be the final product. Well, it will still need stylistic adjustments because it might not sound natural sometimes, other things, but it may simplify your work. It will be clear, it will have syntactic and logical connections. So the measure is your understanding of this translation. So I have nothing against this. I don't think it's a bad idea to do it like this if you feel uncomfortable writing your first drafts in English. But before that, if it's really difficult to start, you can imagine someone really nice and friendly to talk to. Someone who's similar to a target audience, but is really friendly. And you can hit the record button and record yourself. And this would be a very good beginning of what you value about your project, what its main features are, and why you really did it. So it's a good place to start from. So we have here some bullet points, like do not try to cover everything at once, start with something. Do not start with trying to sound scientific. I also covered this. And imagine that you are talking to a very good friend. So this version will be the most naturally sounding version. I think it would be a wonderful world if we all could give, some free talks and not to have to, to fit ourselves in some very narrow constraints, like write only 4 pages or insert 100 references. I think it's easier to understand free speech. It connects easier to other people. But especially for conferences, we have a really strict formats and specified by the conference. And the nature of the academic style is that it is very succinct. I mean, it is not only brief, you cannot be too wordy. You need to be to the point. And you need to cover certain aspects and certain sections which are required. So you cannot just go blah, 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 blah endlessly. But you can not also just, post a bullet list of what you think is most important. And my next slides, I propose that you read them later at your leisure. Will help you to organize your thoughts, how you go through from the point where you have only a list of ideas, then you expand it with bullet points and blah, blah, and then you reorganize. And how you go from this point to matching relevant ideas to the outline, then you repeat main ideas, because in scientific papers, you also need to make sure that in the most important parts, which everyone reads, you also state clearly the main points of your work. So, abstract, introduction, conclusion, and the main section dedicated to this feature, for example. This is the minimum where it should be mentioned or explained. Another important point of academic writing, you can read in more detail if you Google IELTS academic writing tips. how to organize your writing that it meets the standards. I believe that our reviewers do not pay much attention to this part when you try to take IELTS exams. It's like one of the most important things, but this is not an IELTS exam, but still this understanding helps to write, that your ideas flow, they are connected with each other, and you spare yourself extra volume by knowing, well, I said this in real detail in this section, so I can refer to this section. I don't need to repeat it multiple times. Or you have a number of subsections, and in the overview, in the beginning, you write how they are logically connected between each other. So there should be a lot of structure and glue in the text so that it's easy to understand. And another point that I didn't mention today, we should be able to understand that most of our readers will not read our text from the beginning to the end, right? I think it's obvious, but also when we write our text, we should also understand that they will look for highlights, for keywords, or read only some part. What do I need to do to draw their attention, right? To draw their attention to this part. The main recipe is about names of the headings and the table of contents in README files. It's very good when you can see what you can navigate, where you can jump to. So, okay, I don't need the overview. I already heard about it. I don't need the requirements. I need this. So I can skip a lot of text and get what I need. That's where the structure and the informative headings are really, really important. So do not think you can skip on this. No, this will really help your users and readers. So next, evidence in writing. Well, I posted this about half a year ago in Russian in one of our channels, and now translated this for this presentation. It's just an example how you compare figures to prove your point. So I also advise that you read it at your leisure, and also you will come across such examples if you look for IELTS writing tips, IELTS academic writing tips. These are very good points to show that you don't, okay, for example, you have a table with many, many figures. How to pick figures to compare, why you pick certain figures to compare, the politics about it. So you should always remember, why am I saying this? What point am I making? It's not just, I don't know, we experienced an increase in this and this, like 20%. Well, so what? Why is it important? How is it connected with the main topic of your paper? Why do readers need to know about it? So, and these are kind of few examples how you can deal with it. And now we can speak about the reviewing process. From some of our colleagues, I heard that, well, everyone has his or her preferences. People change because they prefer it this way, and I'm such a nice person not to interfere. But my experience is with editors, because my output in other departments, for example, when I write blog posts, everything that goes to the public of JetBrains major, not JetBrains research, everything goes through at least 2 editors. And when I look at editors editing my work, I have mostly no questions. I feel like, oh my God, they're so right, because I absolutely understand their logic. I know the rules, and I kind of wonder, oh, why I haven't seen this? And that's how I actually trust those people, because I understand why they do it. Sometimes it happens, very rarely. I think like 5% of cases when the person misunderstood what I meant, and his or her improvement did something, the sentence means, the new sentence now means something like rubbish, right? So the person doesn't know my subject area and misinterpreted something. Or another thing, punctuation marks, title case, there are multiple rules, but they are still rules. They are not, something you do it like you do what you like. You still need to know this rule applies here, this rule applies here. And I know when I can disagree. For example, I can say, I prefer that my bullet list ends with dots, because sometimes it's possible to, in English, not in Russian, to omit dots in the end. Not always, but sometimes it's possible. So I can disagree because I know the rule, and I have no, heavy feelings about other people editing my work, because I can analyze, I can disagree, and so on. And the good point is you can do the same. And the key building blocks about dealing with your reviewers are: make sure you're polite, then assume positive intent. So please try to think, sometimes like make yourself to think that this person meant to do something good. So this person believed that this should improve. We all think that, I think I can share this. It's a very good and humbling experience when someone finds mistakes in something where you are an expert. It's so good, because then you understand how it happens to almost everyone, that you don't need to be any special person, any lazy person, any crazy person. It happens to everyone. We're used to do things certain way. We believe certain things. We do not always check everything because, well, we are sure that this is right. Well, I have done it this way like my whole life, and it's been okay. And when we collaborate, it appears, and it has appeared so over the past 9 months, that sometimes I wasn't correct in linguistic aspects. And I was so surprised. So I saw someone correcting me, and I thought, oh, like, why? The person said, well, because, and explained his point. And I was like, oh my God, I failed. It was such a huge surprise because, well, when I hesitate, I double check it. I research, I Google, I look for reference literature. When I hesitate, I do check it. Or if you are familiar with what I do, for example, I paraphrase your writing, and then I highlight it and post a comment. Is this right? Did I get it correctly? Because I understand that in one context, it could be right, but in the other context, it could be horribly wrong. And I'm no specialist in this area. I kind of know it on the surface. Thanks to the authors and collaborating this, I kind of know something on the level of a very, very inexperienced user, but I don't really know it really deep. And that's why I ask a lot of questions. Did I render your thought correctly? So I do this a lot, but even so, I still manage, I still discover lots of things to improve because of other people's corrections, because of editors, or another source. I listen to a lot of podcasts and videos, and I mispronounce so many words. It's so humbling, you know, whenever I start a course, like 5-10 words per day, I write down, oh my God, I've been pronouncing them wrong most of my life. How so? Mainly because the first time I met them, I saw a new word, it was in writing, and I kind of assumed that perhaps it's because like this. But still, we all have such habits which could be wrong. And it's really a benefit to work with other people and to be able to learn from them. That's why I encourage you to ask questions when you don't understand why the other person corrected something in your work. Because it's really important, it's your work, you spend half a year, 3 years doing it, and you do want this work to be presented really well. You don't want to, you know, take this stance like, okay, it's not important. Well, it is important, maybe it's an error. So do clarify. It will be good both for you and the text and for the other person, whoever is wrong. So what? We all make mistakes. Okay, my next point. Aha, surprise slide. It wasn't listed in my table of contents. It's counter advice, вредные советы. So, from my today's talk, I've been talking for more than 40 minutes now. Oh my God. So from my today's talk, you should draw the following conclusions. Do not bother about any structure whatsoever. Do not bother to use proper terms and be consistent about your terms. I didn't mention it, but don't bother. Do not bother to explain to users or to anyone. Do not have your document reviewed. I think it's not the question in our laboratory, but maybe in future, just not important. And do not ask questions when you disagree or do not understand. So, any questions? Okay. I think now I'm ready to look at the questions Zarina posted. And then maybe think of good examples, what I remember from my previous work in the laboratory. Just a second. I have difficulty opening it. I hate it. I'm so sorry. I'm inexperienced with presenting. I think I'm sharing something wrong. Okay, I'll just stop sharing. Okay, much better now. Now the list of questions. So how do you find proper terms when you describe your instrument? Sometimes it's really difficult to find a correct word in English, and I would say in Russian just as well. And could I give any recommendations? I think for now I could say something basic and general. Thank you, Google, because 20 years ago it would have been impossible. You would need an expert in this area to be able to actually understand what it's all about. But today, I do it quite a lot when I start some new topic, and I think over the last half a year, 9 months, I have started new topics like 20, 30 times. So I do it a lot. And keywords, you start with keywords, then you refine your search. And when you think that the article is relevant, you read it and look for more clues and maybe links. And sometimes it could take 5 minutes to find the article where you will find your answers, the good terms. Sometimes it could take hours, but you will gather a lot of information. Or maybe, I think there are cases when there are really few publications about this, or maybe it's a sign that your keywords are not appropriate and you'll need to come back sometime later with different keywords. So just Googling, and another goal is to find not just terms, right, some words, but proper terms like valid terms, good style. And we do not always find it on forums. So what is my understanding of a good and valid source? It's another very important question because we all use good examples. Most of our work is based on good examples. First, we copy others, then we kind of customize, and then we are able to be, creators and be more free. But at first, we kind of copy solutions which are built by other experts. So, for example, myself as a technical writer, I use style guides by industry monsters like Microsoft, Google, Apple, and I know that their documentation is really high quality. And I think the same applies when you research your topics. You should look, in the end, land on some academic papers or publications by big companies, or maybe it could be a small company, but somehow you can see that, the analysis is really good in this article. So, because we know that there is a lot of rubbish on the internet, or people repost someone else's ideas, and so let's think for a moment. There's a source, like the first source, then someone chewed it, digested it, and posted his digest. Then this digest is consumed by someone else, and another digest. I don't mean that things are necessarily distorted, but the quality may go down. And we need to go closer to the original sources. And I think this habit of detecting that this writing is good work, I can trust the terms in it, comes with experience. So I hope I answered your question. If not, I think I'm really interested in it, and Zarina will be able to discuss it more in detail later, and I will report in our channel the other findings. As regards the question number 4 about the long readme, I think I touched on this point, that it's not the size that matters. You should make sure that your information is enough. If you worry that it's too long and it will stop users from reading it, well, they never read it from beginning to end. They look for relevant sections, they skip, they hop, they jump, they look for keywords. So too long, no. personally, I found advice like better be too wordy than not write enough. And also it's good to keep in mind that if you have certain keywords and explanation in your text, it could also be discovered through search. So it's important to write that as well. That's why I wouldn't really worry if the text is too long, if it's ridmi. I would suggest that you structure it. Well, it's been almost an hour. Do you have any questions? Would you like any examples of how to structure and organize things, or can we conclude this session?
I have more of a comment than a question. Regarding this thing, when you start from the clean slate and you're afraid to start writing, and sometimes, well, I recommend to my students, and well, I use this myself a lot of times. Using mind maps helps. So this mind map thing, when you try to decompose something and into less abstract, and after some layers you get to very concrete things which are kind of easy to come up with. So this way you create a decomposition of what you're going to write, but you do this in a very abstract way, so you don't really it's not that scary to write sentences. It's not like even full sentences. It could be just a couple of words, but this gives you the structure. So it's I think that when you're writing something that you're not sure about, like the introduction of a paper or readme or something like this, the first thing is to come up with a structure, and then create fancy words and sentences and stuff like this. And these are two very separate things. So until you get the structure, it would be, well, almost impossible to write a solid text from scratch. So doing the structure first actually eases the second step a lot, from my experience. And mind map, or just a hierarchical list of like things you're going to write, actually it gives you the structure. So I find this advice very helpful. I've used it many times in my writing, and I think that it could help you as well. So yeah.
I quite agree. Thank you for this clarification.
Okay, so do we have any questions or comments? Anything else you want to share?
Well, then let's agree that if you have any questions about the part of presentation I skipped, about structuring and things like that, we can dedicate another time to doing it in detail. I just thought that what I already saw in our laboratory, that you're quite good at it. So it's not the major, pain. But if you do need any assistance, I'll be glad to dedicate another talk about organizing your thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Elena, once again for this great talk. I think a lot of people would find useful things in there. So thank you, everybody, for coming. I guess let's wrap it up.